If you're like me, you've been spending hours watching Tiger King during coronavirus, a Netflix docuseries that has dominated headlines and ignited social media with memes and jokes. For many, it's helped ease coronavirus quarantine boredom, but the worlds of Tiger King and coronavirus appear to be colliding. The New York Post reporting that the Tiger King himself, Joe Maldonado Passage, has been in isolation due to confirmed cases of COVID-19 at his prison. Now they say inmate records show he's been transferred to a prison medical center in Texas. It's usually not easy to create sympathy for those behind bars, but what happens to the prison population in the midst of a pandemic likely won't remain in jails and prisons. The Marshall Project, a nonprofit for journalism about criminal justice, has been recently reporting on the impact of coronavirus to America's inmate population. They note that with roughly 200,000 people flowing in and out of jails every week, the risks are not only for those detained, but also for jail workers and surrounding communities. Prisons are cruise ships on steroids. Here with me now to discuss is Dr. Barun Mathema. He's an infectious disease epidemiologist at Columbia University who studied the spread of tuberculosis in Brazilian prisons. Dr. Mathema, thank you so much for being here. What did you learn in Brazil that may have applicability to what we're seeing now in the United States?
Good morning. I think the main sort of lesson that we learned from Brazil and elsewhere, in fact, is that prisons and jails are great places to to acquire infection, and prisons themselves can really incubate infections so that a large number of individuals can be infected. But prison populations themselves are not completely isolated from the general population or the community, if you will. There are many bridge populations with prisoners themselves coming in and out, as well as visitors, as well as the folks who work. So therefore, prison populations can, in fact, pose a risk to the general population via sort of a spillover effect of infections. That's what we learned in tuberculosis, and certainly can be the case with COVID-19.
I know that many use prison and jail interchangeably. You are not. But jail by nature is a much more transient population. I referenced the Marshall Project figure of 200,000 folks in and out of jails on a regular basis.
Right, absolutely, and jails are certainly much more dynamic in terms of sort of bidirectional flow of individuals, and so therefore it's particularly troublesome if we should see outbreaks sort of occurring within jails where the incarcerated populations may be moving in and out.
I saw that rapper Meek Mill just donated 100,000 masks to a prison population, including Rikers Island. What do we know of how well they are staffed, how much equipment they have, and their efforts thus far to contain the virus?
Well, as far as I know, I think they are, at this point, it is all hands on deck. However, there are, the prison population in and of itself has a fairly sizable, vulnerable population within that have a lot of chronic conditions, other types of infections, and certainly the type of conditions that we've been hearing about in the press and in the medical literature about what may dictate worse outcomes. So it is in fact really important for prison populations or jail populations to really take care of these vulnerable populations. And as far as I understand, that there is some effort, but also that there is particular groups who are vulnerable within Rikers that have been sort of, I think there was a lawsuit that was recently put out, really asking for protection, really.
And Dr. Mathema, finally, to those who would say, the hell with them, they're behind bars and they deserve to be there. Among the messages I'm trying to deliver is what happens in prison doesn't necessarily stay in prison or jail in this context.
Absolutely. I think there's 2 points here. One is that I think as a society, we need to ensure that the incarcerated population are safe. That is something that we should ensure. And likewise, we should also ensure that the what happens in a prison or a jail, for that matter, does not pose an undue risk to the community. And in this case, we know that we have ample examples from many infectious diseases, and tuberculosis probably is one of the best ones, of incarcerated populations really sort of bringing disease into the community, or having staff members or family members bringing disease into the community. And that's been seen certainly in the United States as well as in many countries.